Karen keys my loud car, refused to be arrested. I'm unfortunate enough to be HIV positive, and because of this, I have to take antiretroviral drugs every day. Otherwise the virus will damage my immune system further. Because of what's going on recently around this country, I've been mainly working from home. As a result, I've really fallen off when it comes to my appearance. On this particular day, I just had on some really baggy sweatpants and a janky hoodie, so I guess I could see how from a certain perspective I could look a little homeless. After a couple of minutes on the bus, I noticed this little kid staring at me, and I guess my appearance might have frightened him. But I'm used to getting a couple of odd glances, so I just went back to minding my own business. At this point I started to take my medication while on the bus, mainly because I didn't want to forget later. While this was happening, I got a sharp reminder that people were watching. Karen, the parent of the scared kid, screaming at me saying, "How dare you, do you people have no shame?" I was shocked, and all I could say was what she continues on by yelling, "What do you mean? What? Who do you think you are? Stop popping pills in front of my kid in a public place, you filthy junkie." At this point, I started to get mad. I held up the bottle and tried to explain that it wasn't what she thought it was. But before I could finish explaining, she tries to snatch the bottle while shrieking about how I'm a leech to society, and how if I was raised right and had real parents, I wouldn't be a disgusting addict. That last one really made me pretty mad because both my parents work really hard and are both wonderful people, so I kind of lost it and said, "What the heck would you know about parenting? The day your kid moves out will be the happiest day of his life." So yeah, by now she'd completely forgotten about the drugs and straight up just launched herself at me. So boom, at this point Karen and I had the attention of pretty much the entire bus, including the bus driver. Luckily we soon came to a stop and the bus driver helped remove her and her kid from the bus, but not before yelling some questionable stuff on her way out. Story 2. So, it all started when I decided to want to learn how to drive stick. Since my brother-in-law is the only person I know with a manual car, I had him come over and teach me. When the car starts up, it does make a rather loud rev. We made sure to do it in the afternoon as to not wake people up and try to be considerate. Anyway, it was about the 3rd or 4th day of him teaching me when she first appeared. Karen said, "Nice car. It's a bit too loud for my taste, but it's still nice." I told her, "Oh, thanks," and she asked, "Do you mind trying to keep it down a bit? My baby doesn't really seem to like it that much." I told her, "Yes, sure, we've been driving in the day so it doesn't wake people up." I also told her I did not know anyone around here had a baby, so I'm so sorry about that. Karen responded, "It's not a problem. Just be quieter, Kay," with that condescending tone and smile on her face as she walked off, which kind of made me mad because I just thought it was a friendly chat. So 2 days go by with no sign of her. I wake up, get ready and wait for my brother-in-law to come over so we can start my lesson. I walk outside and lo and behold, she was there. Karen said, "I thought I told you to keep it down." I told her, "I'm sorry. I can't control it. It's just how the car starts and we're not gonna leave it running while I don't care. Stop being so loud." And with that she was gone. My brother-in-law got to my place and off we went. We came back to my house to eat lunch about 2 hours later, and my mom and sister come over, and as soon as they walk in they asked my brother-in-law what happened to his car and tell brother-in-law to go look at the car. The entire driver's side was scratched up and even a tire was popped. The only person that came to mind when I saw it was Karen. We walked down to her house, which was only a few houses down, and knocked on her door. All we hear from the other side is, "I'm not apologizing." So this led my brother-in-law to say, "Then you better have a good case in court because that's gonna cost a lot to fix and I'm suing you for every cent." Karen then says, "Maybe keep it down then, you hick." Brother-in-law replied, "Well, maybe don't go keying cars and popping tires and you won't get sued, you bimbo." And this went on for about 20 minutes. We head back, call the police and get everything ready for what was about to come. As soon as they get there, we started to explain what happened. How I was learning stick, how the car was, we showed them the damages, told them what Karen said, etc. After a while, we walked with police to her house, and it went down about as well as you can expect. The police officer said, "Excuse me ma'am, can you come out here for a minute? We just want to speak to you about the car." Karen said, "I'm not apologizing. I told them to keep it down, and they didn't. They deserve it." The officer said, "Ma'am, what you did is against the law, and they're pressing charges, and you have 5 minutes to get out here, or we'll get a warrant for your arrest and come back." Karen says, "Nice try, but I'm not stupid. I know my rights, and you're not allowed to enter my home without consent or a search warrant." The police officer told her that's only partially true. They can't search her home without a warrant. However, if they do have a warrant for her arrest, they can legally enter the home and place her into custody. She was stubborn. Again, they went back and forth for a bit. After the allotted time set, we went back to my house. The cops left to get a warrant, and we waited. Currently, the lawsuit's in order and the trial is in a few days, and she is in police custody. I've never found it easier to drive stick shift, knowing I won't have to deal with her condescending ways and tones. Story 3. Due to me working in a supermarket, I meet a lot of different people and most of them are incredibly nice and respectful. However, I also see a lot of Karens and male Karens, and this is exactly who the story is about. It was midweek and I was working the tills when a man, the entitled dad, and his son approached and began loading their shopping, and they had a lot of shopping. After scanning their items, I told them the amount. I think it was around 145 pounds, and the dad began rummaging around his wallet, pulling out notes of money. After counting it all, it turns out he was a few pounds short and decided his son should probably put something back so that he could pay. The kid was upset and reluctantly obliged. However, the guy who was standing behind him at the till spoke up and he said, "I can get that for you." He said that obviously talking to the kid and not the dad. The kid smiled, and before he could say anything, the dad went, "Thank you so much. It comes to 145 pounds. He then threw his son's items in the trolley and moved away to let the man come forward. The other guy then said, "Oh, I was talking about your kid's stuff. I'll buy that, but I'm not paying for your shopping. I can't afford to." The dad spoke up and said, "But you just said you would pay." "Yeah, but I meant I'd pay for your kid's stuff, not yours." "Well, you can't just make empty promises. You have to pay for it now." He then looked at me and said, "That's how it works, right? He has to pay because he promised he would." I told him, "Unfortunately, he doesn't have to pay for anything that you buy." The entitled dad shoots me a mean look and tells his son to pass his stuff to the man behind, who is still nice enough to pay for it, which is a lot nicer than I would have been, and they both left. Midway through serving the nice guy, I saw the entitled dad and the kid at the cash machine through the window, withdrawing some more money, meaning all along he could afford it in the first place, so me and the nice guy had a good laugh about that. Story 4. So this transpired a few years ago when I was 18. The revenge technically was not done by me, but I'm a key witness to the events that occurred. For some context, I used to work at a big chain store in the deli department. It wasn't a great job, but it was my first one and it helped me pay for college, so I endured it. But because of what I was subjected to, I quit shortly after, despite it having a great end result. So in my hometown, a population of 4,500, there was a small group of PTA moms who were pretty high up on the chain of command, but also led their own company for party planning. They're known mostly for the fact that their daughters are all best friends and are straight A 4.0 students, and all three were supposed to be valedictorians. I knew them mostly because they were the "we hate drama" crowd, but always spread drama about people. Not just that, but all three daughters were accepted to Ivy League schools on a full-ride scholarship. The one fault they had, besides the drama, was that they were really arrogant, entitled, prideful people, and were incredibly rude to anyone who wasn't rich or even super in shape. Well, one day, they come in asking for 300 pieces of fried chicken and 200 pinwheel sandwiches. For anyone who's ever worked in any capacity of retail food, you'll know that for an order that big, we need at least a couple of days' notice to order more inventory and actually cook everything on time. Not to mention, I was the only one left for the night, so their order would have been impossible anyway. Well, these ladies thought they could just pick it up on the spot. To ensure food quality, I told them they would need to fill out an order form and that it would be a couple of days, and they flipped their lids. I'm not talking a small sigh in disbelief. I'm talking vague threats to actually have me not walk during graduation. Here's how the talk basically went. PTA mom number 1 said, I need this food today. We're the party planners of the lake party you probably didn't get invited to, and the party's in 2 hours. I told her, I'm sorry, but we literally don't have the staff or the time for that right now. I'm more than happy to make you a 96-piece, but it'll take about half an hour. PTA mom number 2 said, You think that's funny? Do you think what I'm saying is a joke? Do you know who I am? I told her that no, I don't. And PTA mom number 1 says, Yeah, we're the official party planners of hometown. We also run the high school PTA, so our daughters probably know you. You don't want your image tarnished, do you? Me, brushing off the vague threat of using her daughter, said, That's pretty cool actually. It sounds like a cool job, but there's just no way for 300 pieces and 200 pinwheel sandwiches to be done in that amount of time. I do apologize for any inconvenience it makes for you, but if you want, I'm more than happy to get a manager so they can talk to you. PTA mom 3 says, When your manager gets here, I'm gonna have you fired and kicked out of walking this year. I told her, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I will not tolerate that kind of threat, and I'm gonna have to ask you to leave now." The manager walks out at this point and says, "Excuse me ladies, but you have no reason to treat my staff like that. You may think you run this town, but it does not give you any rein to treat someone like that." The PTA moms storm out while yelling obscenities at us. A few days go by and I haven't heard anything from either of them or my manager. Then one day at class, I see the daughters in a corner crying with each other. I got word from one of their friends, who was somewhat close to me, that in the past 2 days, they were told they can no longer walk at graduation due to being caught for cheating on basically every assignment, and were no longer attending any Ivy League school. At first I thought it was just a coincidence to what occurred the week prior, but apparently what happened was that a bystander overheard the heated exchange, and this bystander also happened to be a former member of the PTA. She had a lot of dirt on the mothers and their children, so it turns out the mothers were basically getting the answers to every assignment by either paying off the teachers or using vague threats against their families. Because the school was smaller, there was only a handful of teachers that needed to be pleased or threatened. And that was my moment of happiness. Not only did these women get kicked out of the PTA, but their daughters, who I mentioned used to be my old bullies, were dropped from ever attending the school of their dreams. Last I heard, the daughters stayed in the hometown and now work in the same deli department that I used to work in.